Hey there, everyone. Mary Cristelli from PCC Wellness and Recreation, back for another week of Wellness Where You Are. So tonight we're going to talk about something a little bit different than normal. At PCC Wellness and Rec, we see people as whole humans, not just a shell or a body that walks around the earth. There are multiple dimensions to us as human beings that impact our wellness and our well-being and our health. And so it's important when we talk about being well, wherever you are in life, wherever you are physically, emotionally, mentally, whatever that might be, is that we take into consideration all of those different dimensions. So at Wellness and Rec, we go off of an 8-dimension series. Other places that sometimes there are 6 dimensions, sometimes there are 7. It just really depends. But with ours, we've got 8. But with ours, we've got 8 different dimensions, and those include your physical wellness, mental and emotional wellness, spiritual, social, educational or intellectual, occupational, social, sometimes I forget unless I write them down, and then environmental wellness. And so it's important when we talk about wellness that we talk about incorporating all of those different dimensions into what we're doing for ourselves. And so the big one we're going to talk about this evening is the mental and emotional wellness piece. And that is because things are tough right now. They've been tough for quite a while. 2020 has been a really challenging year. It's been something else. And it's been difficult in a lot of ways. And for some folks, much more difficult than others. You know, there are some things that are coming up that some people are seeing for the first time, but that other people have been experiencing for their whole entire lives that have been put in front of our faces, and that is causing a lot of distressing emotions in people, certainly amongst the individuals who have lived these realities for their entire lives. And we're dealing with this pandemic and everything that is it's the fallout from that. So economic crisis and job loss and the financial insecurity that we're working from home. A lot of folks are working from home, and if you have children or you are a student, you're probably learning from home. PCC went to remote classes again, and I know that most of the schools in the community did. And so this is causing a lot of distress and discomfort and upset in people, and it makes sense. And so I wanted to talk about that because we've been hearing from our students at PCC, this is hard and I'm struggling and I feel like I'm alone. And so I wanted to talk about this because that common idea of I feel like I'm alone, that everyone else is okay with what's going on, or they're not having as hard of a time with what's going on as I am, that feels really isolating. And so by talking about it and by sharing, like, no, you're definitely not alone. A lot of people, I would say most people, are experiencing some sort of emotional imbalance right now, and it's hard. What we're dealing with is very hard, and the pandemic is carrying on, and that is causing a lot of fear in people and frustration and depression and anxiety and grief because people are losing their loved ones, and that is incredibly difficult. And so I just want to acknowledge what's going on this year and kind of how that's impacting people. So some things that we're seeing are increased levels of anxiety in people and increased levels of depression and loneliness, stress, frustration, depression, sadness, just all of these things. And so what I wanted to say was, if you're experiencing any of those things, and perhaps you're someone who's lived with some of these things for a very long time. I'm a person who has lived with anxiety and moments of depression for my whole entire life, and I am feeling elevated levels of that. And so if you're a person who, like me, has been living with these things for many years or your whole entire life, you may be feeling intensified emotions and feelings from that kind of stuff. I know that I have moments where those things swell up and they feel a lot bigger than they have before. Or maybe you're somebody who's not really experienced this type of ongoing stress and distress, and so this feels very new to you, and you're like, oh my gosh, this is scary, or this is uncomfortable. I'm not really sure what I'm supposed to do with this. I don't think this is supposed to be happening. Whether you've been experiencing these things before and you're having some intensified levels, or you've not really experienced them before, or you've not really been aware that you're experiencing them before, like, it is okay. Your feelings are okay to have. Our feelings are our body's way of telling us something, sending us a message that something's wrong. And right now, our brains are on alert, and that is just like threat everywhere, constantly trying to figure out like what is safe and what is not safe, what is okay and what is not okay. And that constant awareness, that always being ready for what the danger or the threat is, leads to these uncomfortable feelings, these negative feeling emotions, these bad feelings. Quite honestly, sometimes I'm like, man, I just feel bad, and I'm not really sure why, or what it is. I don't have words for it, but I just want to reassure you that it's okay to feel these things. It's very, and I don't really like to use this word, but it's normal. It's common. A lot of people are experiencing this, and excuse me, the longer the pandemic goes on, we're moving into something that's called like disaster fatigue, or for this particular case, it's pandemic fatigue, and we're getting tired. We're exhausted. I think some people have been exhausted for several months now. I would certainly venture to guess that those individuals who are considered essential workers, who have been going into work every single day, are, our healthcare workers who are out there like busting to take care of us and help keep us safe and healthy and help our loved ones heal if they possibly can, or comfortable if that's all they can do. Our grocery store workers, our postal service workers, people who have been continuing to do this. I'm guessing that those folks have been exhausted for months, and some of us are probably just maybe starting to feel that exhaustion, but I think everybody's getting to this point where it is this fatigue, and that's okay. That is absolutely okay. We gotta hang in there for a little bit longer. This is gonna end at some point. I think everybody's doing the best that they can with the situation that we've been given, but really with that mental and emotional wellness piece and taking care of yourself, and that is acknowledging like, I'm not feeling okay. If you're not feeling okay, it's really important to say that, and to give yourself that space that you need to feel those feelings. Somebody who I have a lot of respect for and value their opinions is like, the only way out of the emotion is through it. And so I say, like, if you don't feel it, then you won't heal it. And so we really feeling our feelings, acknowledging that they exist, and saying like, this is all right, and letting ourselves kind of ride that out is really important. So I'll stop rambling a little bit, but there's some things that we can do in order to help ourselves kind of process through this and work through this. And the first thing is to notice where you're feeling those emotions in your body, whatever that is. I'm angry, I'm sad, I'm tired, I'm hungry, whatever that is. Our body is always sending us messages. It's constantly telling us when it needs something or what's going on. If we have to use the bathroom, it sends us a message. If we're hungry or thirsty, it sends us a message. And it's doing the same thing with our emotions. So our feelings are there for a reason. And just like when we feel hungry, we should satisfy that hunger by eating. When we're feeling an emotion, whether it's a pleasant one like joy or an unpleasant one like grief, we should listen to our body and notice where that is. Excuse me. So the first thing is to notice where you're feeling your emotions in your body. And the reason that I talk about it like that is that because sometimes we don't recognize that we're feeling an emotion coming on until it is like it is like in full force, and we're really in it and in that state of I don't know what to do. Sometimes when I'm having a lot of anxiety, if I don't start to pick up on it early, it can get to, and it has gotten to, a full-on panic attack, and that is not healthy for me. That does not feel good to me, and I would say that anybody who's ever had a panic attack is probably like, yeah, that definitely doesn't feel good. So if we start to notice those things earlier, when they're starting to come on, then we can do some things to kind of help reduce that or keep it from getting to a full-on panic attack or whatever that might be, whatever that feeling is for you. So I feel different feelings in my body in different places, and you probably do also when you're feeling really frustrated. Maybe you feel tension in your neck and in your upper back, or if you're feeling sad, maybe you feel really heavy in your body, or it's like tears behind your eyes, or maybe some people feel nauseated or something like that. So just you might feel your emotions in different places in your body. So noticing where you're feeling things can be really helpful in catching them early on so that we can tend to them and kind of move through those things that help us soothe ourselves, whether that's doing something we really enjoy or talking to somebody who cares about us, who we care about, who's safe and we trust. But noticing where those are early on can help us move through them in a way that sometimes feels safer, that can be a lot less distressing, and that can just kind of help us get through it a little, I don't want to say better, but it can help us get through it. So notice where you're feeling your feelings. And then once you do that, take a deep breath. A lot of times when we're in the middle of an emotion, whether that is like excitement or anger, is we tend to like quickly breathe. We breathe really rapidly. We don't slow our breathing down. And so taking a deep breath, which I need to do now because I'm starting to get a little nervous. Taking a deep breath can help calm things down. It can really help slow things down. It sends a message to our brain to help kind of put our central nervous system back in balance. So our central nervous system is comprised of two different areas. We have our sympathetic nervous system, which is that like fight or flight thing, and then we have our parasympathetic nervous system, which is rest and digest. That's like calming down. So fight or flight kind of amps us up. Rest and digest calms us down. We want to have a nice balance. We don't want to be swinging between the two. So when we take a deep breath, we activate that calming and kind of bring that pendulum that's swinging between the two, kind of slow it down a little more so that it can come back to a center place and just kind of hang there. So taking a deep breath, that can also help clear our head a little bit, let us refocus. It's like hitting the pause button. Sometimes it can be like hitting the stop button. It's like, no, stop, I'm not having this thing right now. And I think that sometimes, depending on the situation, like where you're at, if it doesn't feel safe where you're at, having that emotional experience might be like, nope, I gotta stop this for a while. I'll do this at home. So taking a deep breath, that's really, really important. Or 5 deep breaths or 30 deep breaths, or how many ever deep breaths that you need. And the way that we do that, so we're going to do this little exercise real quick, very, very simple. If you're in a safe place, I want you to feel, if you feel comfortable doing so, I invite you to close your eyes. But whether you're sitting or you're standing, I want you to elongate your spine. So the way that we do that is I like to imagine that there's like a fishing line that runs from the bottom of my spine all the way through the top of my head, and we just pull that up, just like a marionette almost, so that we have a nice tall spine. Then roll your shoulder blades back like you're hanging them on a coat rack, and bring your chin into a neutral position. So a lot of times what can help facilitate good deep breathing is to have our chin in a neutral position, which is like parallel with the floor. But an easy, quick way I like to gauge that is I put my hand into a fist and rest it between my chin and my chest. And if it fits in there nice and snug, which it does, then I know I have a neutral spinal position. You don't want to be tucked in or extended up toward the ceiling. And then just take a nice deep breath in through your nose, and then softly blow it out of your mouth like you're blowing out a candle. So it can be as quick as that when you're taking a deep breath, or you can say if you're around other people, or you have the ability to just walk away and like go somewhere. Sometimes you need to go into a restroom if that's what you have to do, step outside, whatever that might be, and take 2 or 3 deep breaths just to help center yourself in the present moment. Then once we've noticed the feeling, taken our deep breath to calm down our central nervous system, kind of bring things to a stop a little bit, the emotional reaction to keep it settled, is reassuring ourselves. I have done a lot of self-talk and self-reassurance throughout this been a lot of things with the sand and a lot of days and moments, many moments in one day, many times, but saying, you are okay, Mary, it's okay. Your feelings are real, but they can't hurt you. They're temporary. Whatever that is that you have to say to yourself, like, I'm going to be okay. I talk to myself as though I were talking to another person. So I'll say, Mary, you're going to be okay. But that may not feel comfortable to you. So if it's like, I'm going to be okay, I'm okay, these feelings are temporary, they can't hurt me. If it's saying it to yourself in an I format, that's okay too. Whatever works best for you. I mean, this is your emotional system, this is your mental system, this is your body. So the messages that feel best to you, say those to you. And sometimes it can be hard to show ourselves that. I think a lot of us kind of get in this thing of we're very compassionate toward other people, but for some reason that like stops. Like it goes out, it flows out to other people, but we stop it with ourselves. And so really giving ourselves that compassion and that kindness, that love that we would give to another person. And I even have moments where when I'm really struggling with that self-compassion, I will think of myself as a little child, like just see little miniature Mary in that moment and think, what would I say to her? I would not talk to a child or anyone sometimes the way that I talk to myself. And I think most of us, that's our experience. It's like, there's no way I would ever talk to another person this way. And so it's really important that if we're struggling with that self-talk and with that self-compassion, to see yourself like you would another person. Treat yourself the way that you would treat a dear person. You know, sometimes I see myself, sometimes I see my niece. I would never treat my niece the way that I sometimes like don't give myself that compassion. If my niece were crying, I would hold her and tell her it's going to be okay. If my nephews were crying, I would say the same thing. And so I encourage you to treat yourself the way that you would treat someone you love, a friend, a partner, a parent, a child, a sibling, a niece, a nephew, a cousin, a best friend, just whatever that is. Like, treat yourself that same exact way. And I know that that is such a common thing that we talk about that's always said is like, treat yourself like you would other people, but it is so important. And when you're reassuring yourself in those moments, because sometimes somebody else isn't going to be available, sometimes we do have to look to ourselves for that self-soothing, that self-comfort. And in those moments of self-reassurance, saying like, this is temporary, you're going to make it through this, it's going to be okay, I know this is really hard, this feels awful, it's okay for it to feel awful, it's okay for it to feel bad, it's not going to stay forever, and this bad feeling can't hurt you. Just take a deep breath, it's going to be all right. And if you got to cry it out, you got to cry it out. Whatever that's going to be, like, release it. So really reassuring yourself in a kind and loving way. And then in those moments when you can, so like I said, sometimes you're not going to be able to reach out to another person, and that's okay. But sometimes we have to reach out to somebody else, or we're going to be able to. So talk to a safe person, whether that's a parent or a counselor, a therapist, a teacher, a friend, an uncle, an aunt, a grandparent, whatever that is, a safe and trusted person, somebody you know is going to have your back, who you feel really safe with and talking to about these kinds of things. Somebody who's going to support you and comfort you, someone who you're not afraid to feel your feelings in front of. I think that's really important, is that when we're asking for help from other people, that we know we feel safe with them and truly safe with them. And knowing that like not every person we have a close relationship with, we're going to feel that same level of safety and comfort with, and that's okay. That doesn't say anything about any person in the relationship. That just says like, you're not there yet, and that's okay. Those things, they take time to develop. That's developing trust and comfort, safety, honesty, and loyalty, that kind of stuff amongst people. And so just reaching out when you can. And if your safe person is if you're a young person, a teen or a child, and your safe person, isn't necessarily like the guardians in the house, like you got a relationship with them's fine and all that kind of stuff, and they're worried, it's okay to say, I'm getting the help I need. And if you are the person in the relationship being told like, I'm getting the help that I need, trusting that and checking in. We just kind of do it a mutual check-in. Sometimes young people don't always feel comfortable sharing certain things with parents, and that may not be because they don't want them knowing what's going on, but that can feel a little odd. And so just knowing that if that's how it feels, that kind of being as open as you can, being like, yeah, I'm getting the help that I need, and here's what you can do to support me, or even asking what can I do to support you. So those are some things that we can do in those moments where we're feeling those bad feelings or unpleasant feelings. And in the times when we're feeling good, it's really important to be proactive about, okay, this might come back up again. And some people who have experienced distress over and over may be like, yep, that's a familiar tactic to me. But writing down the things that make you feel good, things that you enjoy, kind of putting together a self-care kit, for lack of a better term, and having those things on hand, because in the moment, I don't always know that I don't always think to be like, Mary, you really enjoy warm water with lemon in it. That's very comforting to you. That blanket that you have on the couch is very comforting to you. I don't always think of those things in the moment when I'm like, I feel awful. But if I write them down and I put that in a place that I know I can go to, that it's always going to be there because I always put it back in the same place, then I can look at it and be like, oh, that's a quick thing, I can do that. I'm going to make myself some hot water and put some lemon and honey in it. And I love this honey thing because it looks like a bee. And there we go. Now I have moved on from the thing because I went onto a non sequitur about the honey jar that is shaped like a bee, which is really what I have in my house. So making that list of things that makes you feel good, that make you smile, that brings you joy, watching a movie, listening to music, taking a walk, talking to a friend, whatever that might be, make that list. Kind of help yourself with that. A big thing a lot of folks are feeling right now is isolated and lonely and cut off from people. I mean, social distancing and physical distancing is really interfering with that. And I'll say, as somebody who like that is huge for me. I feel a lot of loneliness. I feel very disconnected from other people because there aren't a lot of people around, and that's hard. And so keeping in touch with your friends as best as you can. What I think is so incredible about the world that we live in, I mean, right now you're watching me live because of social media and technology, is that we can do these things. So finding those people, getting your circle, and it was probably around June or so, I had to tell my friends and my sister, like, hey, I'm having a hard time. This is what's going on. I need you to check in with me. And that was very challenging for me to do. That felt very vulnerable. It felt in the moment oddly kind of like a kind of pathetic. Um, and it's not. It really isn't. Again, the way I talk to myself is not how I talk to somebody else. But I was like, I have to ask other people to do this. And the answer is yeah, because everyone's struggling right now. And it is not pathetic. It is not weak. There's nothing wrong with being vulnerable. If you need something from other people, they, your people, your crew, they're going to have your back. And so just reaching out to those folks who you know are, they care about you and saying, hey, this is what's going on. I don't want to get into it. This is how I'm feeling though, and I just need you to check in with me a little bit more because I'm having a hard time. I feel very disconnected, or whatever that might be. Reaching out to people in those moments, it is absolutely okay to tell someone, especially someone safe, like, I'm not okay. There's nothing wrong with not being okay. It's totally okay to not be okay. And the only way that we're going to get the help that we need and get what we need in some way. I think right now it's what we need is maybe not always going to be fully met just because everyone's, but that we're going to get some of that connection, some of that comfort, some of the peace, some of the love, the joy, whatever that is. One of the ways we're going to do that is by reaching out to people and asking for those things and saying, I'm not doing okay. I'm a huge proponent of mental health care. I will sing the praises of therapy for my entire life. It is incredibly helpful. And if you feel like the feelings that you're feeling, the emotions that you're going through, the things that are running through your head are at a point where it's overwhelming and you're like, this is all great, Mary, but I can't handle this. Don't hesitate to get help, to seek mental health care if that's what you need. There is nothing wrong with it. I think there's still a stigma around that. And, you know, one of my friends said it really well to me. She was like, we would take care of our physical health. Most of us would go and see a doctor when we're feeling ill. If we have a cut, we'll clean it and we'll cover it if it needs to be bandaged. Treat your mental health the same way you would treat your physical health. Take good care of your mind and your heart. Like, those are just as important as your physical body. They're just as important as the environment that you live in. We need people who feel healthy and whole and healed and okay, and being in touch with your emotional experience is the best way that you can start to move toward that, and you can really care for your mental health. So we do have a list of resources that we're going to throw up for you on there. Just a few different things. Colorado Crisis Services has a array of stuff that they offer and that they can help connect to different resources. They have a call line and a text line. So if you're like, I'm not really big on talking on the phone, which sometimes I'm like, why are you calling me? Can't this be texted? You can text or you can call if you prefer. And then we have some other local resources, Health Solutions, Colorado Crisis Services, the YWCA, which is Domestic Violence Services in this community. So just seeing that list and knowing it's not exhaustive, of course, those are just some big things that are causing some distress among some people, and those are some groups who can really help you if that's what you need. I hope this is helpful. I hope it didn't feel super preachy to you. I hope that I said something that you're like, okay, I can walk away from that and feel pretty like I'll try it out. If not, if you're like, this is cool, I'd like to do some more research, I'm not really sure where to start, and I am at a library, which is one of the most magical places on earth to me. It's full of books. I love it. The library has a lot of awesome resources, and these librarians, I've had such a pleasure getting to know librarians here at the Lucero branch, and I'm certain all of the Pueblo City County Library District folks are just as lovely. But I've really had a pleasure getting to know them, and I know that if you came in here or you called, because I know they're moving to curbside, if you called or sent an email or something looking for some resources, that they'd be more than happy to connect you to some of those additional resources, or maybe steer you to some other literature that you might be able to read. I hope you have a really excellent rest of your evening. Whatever you're going to do is fun. Next week is a holiday, so please enjoy the holidays safely. Have a great couple of weeks. I'll be back in a few with another one of these. My name is Mary, again from PCC Wellness and Rec, and this is Wellness Where You Are. Take very good care.